the next chart that we're going to look at is the gauge chart, and we are doing the same thing that is we did earlier, where we are where we are actually setting our variable, that is the echart gauge, and doing an echart.init initialization, so that we can draw our echart in our document, where we have an ID of echart underscore gauge, and then using the theme that we set up earlier for our echart. So for the echart gauge item, we are going to pass or to set some options for it. So the first option that you're going to get to set is the tooltip, whereby we are going to format and show the item A, which is in brackets, then put a break tag and show item B and item C. I don't know, maybe you can just go to the internet and see how to maybe give some different settings to this, but now we are going to only set item A, B and C. So for our toolbox, we are going to set to show to be true, and the features that will be in our toolbox will be the restore and the save as image. So maybe I can just refresh. This is our gauge chart here, where we'll be drawing our gauge, and these are the two toolbox items, that is the restore and save as image, and the tooltip, it is this one shown here. So we are showing the performance, and the performance being 60%. So that is it. So the next thing that you're going to do is to pass items in the series. So the first item is the name, which is our variable A that we showed up here in parentheses or in these brackets. That is the A. That is the performance here, that is shown here, this performance at the top. Maybe you can just, yeah. So that is it for item A. Then we're going to specify the type of chart that we'd like for a series as a gauge chart, and the center to be at 50% and 50% from on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So the center, I think this one here, should be 50% and 50% on the x-axis and the y-axis. So after that, you're going to specify our start angle and our end angle. So our start angle is 140 and our end angle is negative 140. So actually the start angle, I think this is the start angle, which is according to JavaScript is at 140. Then it runs and it ends at negative 140 pixels, or 140 out of 360. Not actually pixels, but it's 140. Then we set the mean and the maximum value for our gauge. So our gauge will run from 0, then go through up to 100 here. So maybe you can just put, like, maybe if it was a car gauge, maybe the speed would be going up to 320. So on saving that, you can see what we have. The gauge would move up to some part here, and our performance would actually go down. Maybe we'll just change this percentage to kilometers per hour or miles per hour. So I think I'll just go back to maximum value as being 100%. Then the precision, I'm setting it as 0. It is being set as 0, and the split number as 10. So just saving it, and you can see now. So this is 0 here, and this is 100 here. So after every 10 items, we are having a split. Then after another 10, we are having another split. So That is what is specified by our split number, that is 10. Then the access line, I'm setting the show to be true, and then the line style, I'm setting different colors for different items. So for the first 20% of our gauge, or 0.2 out of 1 of our gauge, we are going to have a light green color. Then for the next 20% you are going to have an orange color. Then the next 40% you have a sky blue color, and the next 20% you are going to have this color. So yeah, it's a reddish color. So this is the first 20%, then the other 20%, then the other 60%, and the other 20%. So that is it for gauge. Then you are going to set the width as being 30. So the width of our gauge here, that is from this point up to here, it is 30 pixels all through gauge. So if maybe we would have put something like 20, then our gauge would be much thinner. So I've just put 20. Let's just refresh and see what we get. So we have a much more thinner gauge. So I'll just return it back to 30, or just put it at 32. And I think that with that we'll be having a good representation of our gauge, where the so now the width of our gauge will be 32 pixels. So after that, I'm going to show them the axis sticks. I'm setting it to show true. Then the split number is 5 and the length is 8 pixels. So, and the color, I'm setting it to a light grayish color, and the type is solid, and the width is 1. So maybe I can just set it to a much darker color, and maybe I'll just remain with the split colors. That maybe the length, I might change it to show some changes. So actually the split colors are these colors that are coming in between our splits here. So I have just made some changes. Let me just refresh, and we will see what we'll be having. So I changed them from white, from dark grayish to something sort of black, and we are having, actually after every split we are having 1 2 3 4 5, then another split, then you are having 5. So maybe I'll just go back to what we had earlier, and they will be shorter now, and they look much better. Yeah, so here we have them. So maybe this is our first, second, third, fourth, then the fifth appears on the split, then another 1 2 3 4, then the fifth appear on the split. So that is it with the axis sticks. Then you can also have axis labels, which in our case we are using the switch case. So for the axis label, you're setting it to show to true. Then the formatter, you're going to run a function and passing the v through it. So actually v is like the percentage that we are through. So at 10%, when v is equals to 10, we are going to return a at that point, and when v is equals to 30, we are going to return b, and then when v is equals to 60, we are going to return c, and when v is equals to 90, you're going to return d. Otherwise you're going to return a 0 value, so, or an empty string. So as you can see here, this is 0. So when we are at 10%, we return A. When we are at 30%, we return B, or we show B there. When we are at 60%, we show C, and when we are at 90%, we show D. So after doing that, we are going to set the text style as a grayish, being grayish. Then the split line, it will be having a length of 30 pixels, and the color will be light grayish with a width of 2 pixels and a type of solid. So these are the split lines, for example at 10 and at 20, at 30. So they are having 30 pixels, which is actually covering the entire width of the gauge. We actually changed ours to 32, and they are having a width of 2 pixels, and they are of type solid. So width is of 2 pixels and they are a solid type of line. So after doing that, we are going to set our pointer. So we have set the length, the width, and the color. So the color I've just set to auto, so it will get the color of the point where we are in our gauge. So the width I've set to 8. Maybe I can just increase it to 12, and we'll see the width of this pointer increasing. So I've just refreshed my page, and as you can see, the width of the pointer has increased. So I'll just return it to 8 pixels, and you can also change the length of that pointer. So I can just change it to 80%, and it will now actually be pointing somewhere close to here, somewhere here. Yeah, so you can just refresh, and as you can see, it is now pointing up to somewhere here. It is actually pointing up to where we have on the documents. So I can just return that to something like 72. I think that will be better. It is showing, actually it is pointing up to here. So for that, I'm setting also the title as showed true. Then I'm setting the offset center as being -65% and -10. Then the text style to a grayish and a font size of 15 pixels. So the title actually is the one that is this one here, this performance. So it is starting at -65% from the center, and -10% of, or -10 pixels. So it is starting from -65% from the center and -10 pixels from the center line. So maybe this is the center line. So it's -10 pixels above, and it has a font size of 15 pixels. Then the detail actually, the detail, I'm not quite sure with the detail. It is set for to show to true. The background color is black with an opacity of 0. Then the border width is 0. Then the border color is light grayish. Then the width is 100. The height is 40, and the offset center is -70% and 10 pixels to the bottom. Then the formatter, we are getting the value. Then the color is auto, which is the color of the value. Then the font size, yeah. So the details actually is this detail here. So it is at -70% from the left side. Then the font size is 60 pixels. Then it is being shown at a point where it starts at a point where it is 10 pixels from the center point of our document, and 70% to the left of our document. So that is it. It also actually gets the color from our document. So now it is showing blue. If it were at a point where it was this orangish, then this color will be orange. If it were at this point, then this performance color will be green. So after that, and the font size is 30. So after that, I'm passing the value. So the value is 60% and the name is performance. So maybe I can just change this, then you can see. Just have a lowercase, then this I can change to 30, the value, then you will see the changes that will appear. So on refreshing, you can now see the performance color here is the orange color. The gauge point has changed to orange, and yeah, the performance, the P here has then for the name has also changed. And when we hover here, you can also see that the item on our tooltip, the performance that is below, it also has a small p. So that is this same one here, and that is obtained from our data attribute. So actually A here actually stands for series name, then B for the name of our data, and C for the value of our data, and they are appending a percentage sign. So that is it with the gauge.